So today is June 13th. We are attending the Charlton Board of Health meeting. It is an early meeting today. It is 4:30. On the agenda, we have discussion of a new board member. Currently, our board is down to 2 out of a board of 3. So we are trying to fill a vacant seat temporarily to the next election, which would be next May, I believe. So we have publicized this and put out some newspaper ads and word of mouth, and we have 2 candidates. And Jim, you'd like to recuse yourself from this?
Well, I think if they're going to be on the board, I serve at the will of the board. I should not take part in the interview process.
Okay, I'm fine with that. John, do you have?
No problem with that, that's fine.
Okay, so then, just before you excuse yourself,
Sure.
as a matter of protocol, I did the same thing. I was appointed and then I was elected. At that time, we had to sit in the hall, and we did one interview and then we did the
Yes.
other interview. Is that the way to go now, or do we all want to just do it together?
I think you should probably have one probably sit in the hall and then speak to one, and then you're choosing, then the next one would come in and then you would discuss it. Because I don't think, because you're going to ask the same questions of each candidate.
We'd ask the same questions. So the only thing I want to say is, it is an open Board of Health meeting, and anybody is welcome at any time, so nobody has to go sit in the hall if they choose not to. So that's up to you two. If I say either both agree to sit in the hall or neither agree, and I'm okay with it either way. I don't know how you feel about it, if you'd like a little privacy in answering, or...
I would go out and sit out. You can interview. Your mother's, and you probably want to get this over so you can get taken.
I appreciate it.
I'll go out and sit out.
And then-
That's fine.
And
That's
you're
not a
okay
problem.
with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so,
that would be fine. And then would you require my attendance after, while you're interviewing him, would I need to stay for the end of that?
So, we're gonna do you first, you have somewhere to be?
I do.
Okay, so...
I apologize.
And you're okay with that,
I'm
right?
fine with that.
All
Sure.
right, so we'll interview you.
Sure.
And then we'll be done.
Okay.
Our board, I guess the way it works is John and I come up with a recommendation.
Sure.
We, and also with Andrew, but we let our information go on to his team, and then ultimately selectmen make final decision.
Sure.
So he's sitting in the, be a part of it, but I guess it's our recommendation, but we don't have final say, it's up to the select board, so, that's accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
They may opt to bring them in when we do the joint appointment, but
Sure.
see what the process is.
Yeah, so as far as tonight though, yeah, you can hit the road, no problem.
Great.
So, if you don't mind,
Not at all.
we
Thank
will
you very much. I
get
appreciate
your
it.
attention, and Jim, you're gonna leave as well,
I'll go out with Bane.
okay? Go get him. Should have brought a baseball, you could take the kids out back.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing quite fine over there.
It is kind of quiet, but I can't see it. Okay, so let's get to it. As you know, Board of Health, we have a seat opening. We had our third member, who would have been chair this year, decided that they were going to go for selectmen. Select board. They, in fact, got on the board, and you're not allowed to have that multiple positions, so we have lost Pete. Here we are.
Sure.
Okay, I have reviewed somewhat, I'm not sure this is exactly what I've reviewed, so can you tell me a little bit about yourself? You live in town and take it from there?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was recommended to find out more about this position from Pete. Pete is a colleague of mine. He actually was one of the nurse managers that I worked for when I was an ER nurse at UMass. I have been an emergency department nurse at UMass for about 10 years. I left that position, pursued a graduate degree in public administration with a concentration in emergency and disaster preparedness. I then went from there to get a little bit more into the disaster medicine world, understanding emergency preparedness a little bit further, and I'm now a faculty for the Harvard Medical School Disaster Fellowship, which is a group of physicians that is domestic and international that I teach hospital emergency preparedness to, disaster preparedness, and EMS. Prior to that, and prior to becoming a nurse, I was a member of the Dudley and Oxford Fire Department as an EMT. I moved to the town of Charlton in 2014. My husband and I both obviously live on Harrington Road, and then my parents actually purchased the property next to us, and they built a home subsequently there. So we have a nice, cute little homestead there with our 2 kids, and we do that. My current position full-time is I am in charge of a critical care transport team out of Bay State Health in Springfield. So I'm a flight nurse, and that's what I do full-time, and then I do all the disaster stuff part-time. I'm also an intermittent federal employee with the National Disaster Medical System, so I'm actually deploying next week for the 4th of July celebration at Washington, D.C., and I'll be providing medical coverage there. I don't have a lot of free time because I like to do a lot of work.
Yeah, I hear you there.
But the reason that I was interested in this position is I'm a Dudley kid born and raised. I went to Shepherd Hill. I really have a vested interest in the town and the school system and understanding health practices within the town. I've got 2 kids that I plan on raising, in the town all the way up through high school and beyond, hopefully. And I think that my skill set would mostly be, and my background would be most helpful in the Board of Health setting. I did speak briefly to Pete about kind of what the position would entail and how my subject matter expertise may or may not be helpful in the position. And so I thought it would be interesting just to find out more. This would be my first position that I would be entering into in a from a local government level. So that's kind of what I've got. Is that enough? Would you like me to talk more?
No, that's great.
I can't even keep it all straight.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Me either.
It's a
Yeah.
lot. John, you have any questions?
No. It's quite a background you've got. That's for sure.
It's a lot.
So, so you're up in helicopters, like pretty much just like on call when you're there.
Yeah. So my
Interesting.
full-time position is really interesting because we're the only dedicated ground critical care transport team in Massachusetts. So 99.9% of the time I'm actually in an ambulance, and we're doing very long ground critical care transports of very complex patients. So I'll take a patient from Fairview and Great Barrington right on the New York border all the way into
Okay.
Boston.
All right.
And they're too sick to put in a helicopter.
Right.
So that's typically what I do full time. I did just, pays the bills. Love that job. It's a super cool job. Disaster preparedness, emergency preparedness, health practices, and disaster preparedness is really my joy, my focus. I really feel very passionate about that. I just was the head faculty last Thursday, actually, for a large disaster preparedness drill that was held at Anna Maria College. It was a dirty bomb scenario. We had about 85 victims, and we had over 150 EMS and fire hazmat participants. And so overall we had about 250 people at the drill, and we played it out through decon and how we would do family reunification and stuff like that. So that is a lot of the other, I work with a lot of the other local EMS agencies as well.
Yeah, that's it's too bad we have to do that type of training.
It is,
for the obvious reasons, but the flip side to that is I'm glad we're doing it, and I'm glad there are teams of people training just for that, because I hope that day doesn't come, but if it does, is best prepared anybody could be is good. So kudos to you for being a part of that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's definitely a passionate project of mine. So I grew up as a first responder family. My dad's a retired police officer. So EMS was my first love. So I really like educating EMS, fire, police personnel on health practices. So
Great.
If I may.
Please.
That's pretty impressive. That's quite a bit. Pete Lancet probably told you some of the other boring stuff that we get into, like septic design and
Yes.
a lot of variances and things like that.
Mhm.
Oh, it's too close to my well, or my septic is whatever. But he's I'm trying to think. He's probably given you a pretty good rundown. But over the past, since I've been here, this is my 7th year. This board, Matt, maybe you know, the board, not the board, the overall board personnel have increased by, including our shared service folks. We've got, I don't know how many people, I can't even count. It's got to be what?
There's quite a few. We've at least doubled.
6 or 8, yeah, at least now, that report through Jim. And doing the other towns, which are Sutton, Wales,
I think the we have the Sturbridge.
Sturbridge, right?
There's a group.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, there's 5,
Sure.
and it goes through this office, which is
Oh, wow.
which is very interesting. So these are state grant
Brimfield,
things.
Holland. Is Wales?
I thought it was Wales, but it's not Holland.
Sutton.
Sutton maybe.
If you get all
And
of
we
them,
added
it'll be good
Spencer.
price.
Spencer came in the end. Yeah. So I
See,
think there's 6.
Jim would know. He'd be able to
Rattle them off.
rattle them off very quickly because he's dealing with all this. So it's a lot of activity, but maybe I'm speaking just for myself, but a lot of the work does get done by Jim and the other personnel in the office here. So, we show up every 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes a little more often, and we can be in and out of here in about an hour. It's quite nice. So it's a well-run organization, I think.
I agree, John. And I would say we oversee the daily operation. My phone doesn't ring from Jim or anyone in particular daily, but I know what's going on, especially when we have a hot topic coming up and it gets serious, then I'm on the phone sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Sure.
If we have a restaurant that's in non-compliance or if we have a certain issue, but so we know we as a board don't tend to micromanage this team,
Sure.
because quite frankly, everyone in this office could probably out Board of Health all of us. I would think, certainly me, and I've been on for a while too. I've learned a lot about it, but it's but sometimes we're elected, right? So it has to be cast in stone. The Board of Health said this, and that's what our role is. We vote on things. We listen to dilemmas, we try and problem solve, but we have teams that help us do all of the technical stuff, because we're not in, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a specialist really in anything to do with the Board of Health. I live in town, and that's it. So, but that's, I would say, how the board is, how we oversee and make decisions, and
And set policy or do, if there's a change that's, we've done it just a few times maybe, where we've changed some of the policies or regulations. So, but it's few and far between, very manageable. So
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm on the board, I've got to allocate 10 or 15 hours a week to get caught up on all of the issues and come in prepared. It's Jim does a fantastic job, and so does everybody else in the office, and Tom Purcell, our Title V person, and all the other nurses and regional folks that are working under the auspices of this board. So it's real easy. That's why, believe me, if it wasn't, I would not have lasted more than one 3-year term. So it's good though, and there's a sense of accomplishment too. When we leave here, at least I feel like okay, we did something good tonight, and I guess the other thing I would say is it seems like there's continuous improvement of this office in general. Just every year that goes by, it's a pretty good, well-oiled machine that takes care of business in a real efficient manner.
I actually had an interaction with Mr. Philbrook. We're talking like 15 years ago. I was just in college, was doing a summer job, and I actually ran a day camp down on Barrett Road a very long time ago. And that was my first interaction ever with the Board of Health. So I'm like this 18-year-old girl, and he's, coming in, and he's like, I gotta inspect your camp. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's kind of funny that it's a little bit full circle for me now.
Sure.
So yeah, but even back then they were a very well-oiled machine as well. So yeah, it sounds like the office really has a great cadence, and that they can get things done pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're in a pretty good spot right now. Andrew, do you have any questions?
Nothing in particular, other than just, what's your knowledge of the role of the Board of Health overall?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think similar to what you said, I know that I can understand some of the general things, right? Like you need to understand that you're having sanitary health practices at all of your businesses, and that there may be Board of Health matters that we would weigh on, me, not including me, but you guys would weigh in on regarding if, like, as you said previously, regarding a septic, or if there was any, I know that there was recently an issue with a specific chemical being in, was it the landfill?
Yeah.
Yes.
PFAS.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which
forever
is,
chemical.
yes, and I'm familiar with that with
Chemicals.
Turnout
it's a-
Gear as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of having an oversight on those practices. But I think that I definitely would have a lot to learn as well, because this would be, you know, my first opportunity to work with you folks. Mhm.
Anything else? John, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so. As I said, I spoke with Pete pretty extensively, so he was kind of my insider secret to,
Yeah.
you know, find out what the board would be like. But I think it's a really great opportunity, and I appreciate you guys speaking with me.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we have.
That's all I have.
Yeah. So great. Thank you for coming in.
No problem.
You can head on your way with, hopefully we didn't make you too late.
No, I appreciate it. I apologize that it happened to be at the exact
That's
same
okay.
time.
Oh,
Thank you very
it's
much.
fine.
I'm having
Nice
one
to
of
meet
those
you.
days myself. There's multiple things going on today.
Oh my
and,
gosh.
It's how it goes.
I just said to my husband, he's changing brakes right now at our house. I was like, can you go get Mom? So, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks
Thank you.
again.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
How you doing in the back, Tyler? You okay?
Good.
How about you, Tay? All right. Andrew, if you could like shut it, but maybe not latch it, because I think there's a. If it's latched, it's closed. If it's close, we're okay.
All right.
I think
We're
there's a
good.
rule about that.
We're good.
And we have the window. We can see if anybody's trying to get in as well. Okay. So we have conducted our first interview, and we are now going to ask you some questions. Thank you for waiting in the hall for us. And I will start off the question. And the first question that we asked was, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Payne Booker, I own a business in town. I've been in town for about 35 years. Business in town for 34. I just have a family, a daughter, granddaughter. I like the town. I've always liked the town. I grew up in North Oxford next door, and I came to town, and here I am.
Okay, nice. John?
So, have you been on any other boards in town for elected?
No, I have.
Okay.
The closest thing I came was a constable for a couple of years.
Okay. All right.
Constable, how was that?
It was all right. It was not a big deal.
Guns blazing?
Yeah.
No,
No,
no.
you know, you're always wondering when you go into some of the houses, go to some of the houses to serve, but yeah, I never really had a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly evictions and court notices and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But
Okay. Andrew, how about you? Any questions?
What do you believe is the role of the Board of Health?
Public health and safety, monitoring different restaurants and septic systems, basically public health and public safety, I think.
And anything in particular that interests you in the Board of Health?
Yeah, I like all the different things that you guys get involved in as far as the commercial end of it, stores, restaurants, septic systems, you know, different health issues,
Don't
water
forget-
issues,
yeah, don't
capping
forget
of the
the
landfill.
Yeah, I think that's gotta
Which
be.
is very important.
That's
That's
gotta be
been going on
taken.
for a lot of years. That's nice to see that starting to come to fruition a little bit. There's I have time now, and I just like to be a part of something and see what I can do to help the town.
John, you have any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, not at this time. I don't. Well, like I said, you had an opening and figured I wanted to dive in and get my feet wet and get
Yeah.
involved in.
That's good,
In
because
the
there's a
town.
lot of positions that, well, you know, you've been in town long
Yeah.
enough that sometimes there's nobody that will
Right.
throw their hat in the ring, and the position is just, I don't know, not filled or, anyway, so.
So you've
that's
been in business 30 plus years in this town? How's that been? How's the town been to you? Good?
Yeah, I've got no complaints with, but yeah, you know, no, I've got no complaints at all as far as, you know, my business goes. Being in town, I haven't had any, you know, I try to keep a low profile. I don't, you know, I try to keep quiet. I know I'm in an area that's pre-existing, non-conforming, so I take into consideration my neighbors in the neighborhood. And I don't think, I haven't had any complaints. I get along with all the neighbors. And, you know, I try to be quiet and try to be thoughtful of being in the neighborhood. You know, if I'm gonna be making noise, I'll shut my garage door down so it's quiet, so there's nothing that travels up the driveway. I mean, I'm a bit off the road anyway. I'm a couple hundred feet off the road, but noise still travels, you know, so.
Yeah,
And actually, I'd rather be where I am than on Route 20, you know, out there. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. Route 20 is not all that.
There's no advantage for, you know, people say, well, you're out of the way. Well, today you don't need exposure. You know what I mean? Everything is word of mouth. People are on their phone, you know, they look for a place. I got a website a couple of years ago and, you know, I'm constantly getting one. And I held off from that because I guess it can do well for your business, but it can also be a pain. Because you get a lot of people asking questions that have no intentions of doing anything with you except, you know, kind of wasting your time. So.
Yeah, just today, I went by, a friend of mine has a fence company on the corner of Fisk Hill and Route 20. And there was a car pulled over and two guys were talking and all this. And I'm like, probably, you know, doesn't know the landowner at all. And the landowner's got a business and things and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, to a certain level, I'm glad I don't have the general public in my front yard talking. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that privacy that you have talking about.
I forward my calls to my cell phone when I leave the shop during the day if I have to leave, and sometimes, you know, 5 o'clock will come, I'll forget, so I'll be sitting home at night and the phone will ring and it's somebody that saw my website or whatever. I've gotten calls at like 10 o'clock at night, guy broke down on the turnpike. Want me to go? Don't do that, my website doesn't say anything about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the bad side to it.
Right.
But, you know, you get new people that come in town, and especially today, everybody's, you know, it's all about the computer and, you know, looking online for services and stuff like that. So I've gotten a little bit out of that. You know, everything I've got is word of mouth, and I stay busy all the time.
Yeah.
So,
All right, John, do you have anything else?
no, I think that's it.
I don't have any. Andrew?
Good, thank you.
So what we're gonna do is, I think our board's gonna just have a chat or whatever, John. And I don't know if we're gonna make a recommendation tonight or table it, but at a certain point, more than likely tonight, we're gonna make a recommendation towards Andrew, and then Andrew's gonna bring it to the Board of Selectmen. And he mentioned that the board may or may not have the candidate come in and a couple of questions from the board if the board wants. So I think that's the next step. So as far as today and the interview and everything, I think that's all we have. And I certainly say thank you for your interest in the Board of Health and reaching out and all that. So, yeah, I'm good. I don't have anything.
Yep. Thank you for your time.
okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
You want to take a couple of kids with you?
Sure, I'll take them. Give me the keys of your truck
Oh,
and
yeah,
some
no,
money
that
for
deal's
ice
off.
cream and we'll go have a good time.
That deal's off. I heard a noise back there. You guys behaving?
That buzzing noise?
Yeah.
That's the computer. We don't know what it is.
Did you guys, are you playing on the computer or?
We're playing a game, but I don't know. We're
Alright.
playing a game, it's just making a noise.
Try, just don't push too many buttons over there because
We're not.
Jim's gonna come into it and I'm gonna be in the hot seat, so.
Yeah, the hard drive's wiped out, all the records that he's
I have a
got.
black marker.
Oh, I don't know about a black marker. Come on in, Jim. The computer was making a little bit of a noise. I wanna make sure those guys, I don't know if you wanna take a peek to make sure they're in.
It was
check
humming
over
like,
there.
Oh, it's the speakers. They probably have.
Okay, it did sound like speakers, yes.
Yes.
Speakers, when they fall over.
Okay, so, moving
Yeah, that's
forward, John, do you have any comments or questions about the two candidates?
Well,
How do you want to go about this?
well, first of all, I just want to say it was nice to have two candidates come in here that really would like to be on our board. We've seen before with some of the issues that Jim had trying to get qualified people in here. Right off the bat, I think Catherine is more qualified, I will say that. But, you know, Bain obviously would probably be a good fit as well. It's just my gut feeling is that she has a great background with public health.
So, myself, I definitely think Catherine's strong suit is the public health side of it. But I do tend to think that Bain, to me, appears to be more rounded on some of the other things as well. He mentioned the restaurants, he mentioned the landfill, he mentioned water. I don't know. I don't think we could go wrong with the candidate, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
me either.
What's your comments?
Well, it was good to hear from both of them. I think, I'm glad that both of them stepped forward. I'm glad, one of them had a very rounded, perspective of kind of different factors, years of experience and being, in Charlton for a while. I felt Catherine brought, I think, a lot of the qualities that you want to see on the board from that experience of the disaster management, the health perspective, health leadership perspective. I think that's really something I think would be the best quality for this board moving forward to have that voice. So my recommendation would be probably Cap.
Okay. John, you ready to make your recommendation on who?
Yeah, I would recommend Catherine over
Okay.
Bain, and that's nothing against Bain either. It's just I think she's got the edge. What Andrew said.
Yeah, so for me, I think I think my recommendation is for Bain, and I'll tell you why I feel that way. Number one, I've known Bain for a number of years, and by no means we're not best friends or he's not my buddy or anything like that, but I know Bain gets out. I know he gets to the coffee shop. I know he communicates with other people in town. That's how I know him, sitting at the coffee shop. And I met him one day, and finally it's, hey, you're on the Board of Health, but I can't go to the board to a coffee shop without Bain asking me, hey, so what's new with the Board of Health? Hey, how come this happened? Hey, what's going on with this? And I feel. He has been a resident in town for 30 plus years. He's had a business in town for more than 30 years. And I think he's going to be, I think Catherine has the strong suit in the health, in the nursing and in the health and all that. There's no doubt about it. I don't know what our role is in that. We don't have a role in that. When COVID came, we had Jim Philbrook telling us updates and what was going on, we made a few decisions when it came down to, are we gonna close down Bay Path, are we gonna close down the Charlton Middle Schools or whatnot, but we were basically being educated as, say, COVID hit, or even when West Nile hit, we were getting the education on it, and we didn't, so although she's very strong in that suit, I'm not so sure that the other things are less important, and nobody's alluding to that. I'm just talking out loud. So for that reason, I think Bain would be a better fit. So I will say the Board of Health is an elected position where, to a certain extent, it's a popularity contest. It's who you know. There's no qualifications to be on the Board of Health. I first got on the Board of Health because I heard they were going to ban outdoor wood furnaces. That was 15 years ago. I said, who bans outdoor wood furnaces? And they said the Board of Health. I said, I'm getting on the Board of Health, and it just, the timing was there, and here it has been. And yes, we do outdoor wood furnaces, and that's a very small part of this board. But I personally think Bain's a better candidate, and that's who I would go with. So be it as you may, I don't think this board could go wrong by any means. You could take it to your team.
What I'll probably do is, just since you each had your own perspective, we'll probably just set up for the meeting on the 11th is I'll have both candidates come in, and we can just have the questions ready, and we do it as a true joint appointment.
Okay, sure.
So would we be required to be there for that?
Yeah, irregardless, because it is a total vote of every of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health. So
July 11th?
July.
July 11th.
Yeah. So what I'll do is, we'll just have it as kind of the similar. We'll bring them both in, we'll ask some questions, and have it as a super board majority. So.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I think my schedule is A-OK July 11th. I just have to watch a couple of little things, but I don't see
Is that
it
a Tuesday?
I don't see
Yeah,
it
it's
conflicting.
Tuesday.
Okay.
It's going to be the week after the 4th.
Yeah, the week of the 4th I am on vacation.
Yeah, I think most people are.
Yeah. So why don't we pencil in, Andrew, if you don't mind when I do this.
Yep.
But our next meeting, John, why don't we make our next meeting on that same July 11th date? And what we'll do is, do you know what time your meeting's gonna start?
What we'll do is we'll just pencil this right in for 6:45.
6:45. So what I'd like to do, John, is let's have our meeting for 6 o'clock on July 11th. We'll meet here, and then we will stay in session and continue our Board of Health meeting with joint meeting with the Select Board.
Sounds good to me.
And then, and if we take care of business, then we will end our meeting down there, and if we have more to discuss, then we can bring it back after
Okay.
that discussion and finish our meeting in this room. We'll play that by ear, if that works for you.
It works for me perfectly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. sounds
So,
good.
thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Guys.
Thank you, Andrew.
Our next.
Make it on time?
Yeah, just make it wait. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks
All right,
again.
Thank you.
Okay,
Jim, you ready to come back and join us?
okay, next on the agenda was septic installer and design and procedure notice from Tom Purcell. I know Tom's not here to discuss it, but I'd like to review it with you and myself, John.
Sure.
We may not need Tom here, or if it gets complicated, then we'll bring him in. So I just want to take the time to read this because I have not read this. It says, for the design installation of stone and pipe bleach bedded trenches, the stone size required is 3/4 to 1.5 inches. That's normal. When ordering stone from your supplier, please call for 1.5 inch stone. If you order 3/4 stone, you typically will receive 3/4 to 1/2 inch stone, which is unacceptable and will have to be removed and replaced with the proper size stone, 1.5 inches. So that's, I see what's going on. Basically, The slips are saying 3/4 because the installers are buying 3/4 stone from the supplier, the quarries. But it seems like a smaller stone is getting mixed in with that.
And that, what that does is it effectively reduces the way that
The
they.
aeration and the flow.
Yeah.
I would say
right.
it slows the flow down
Right,
a
oh
little
yeah,
bit.
I would think so.
So that's first. Number two, it says, in order to receive a signed certificate of compliance from the Board of Health, the entire system will be required to have finished grading and stabilization of all slopes. Stabilization shall be in the form of loam seed, straw mulch, or other acceptable slope stabilization materials. So that one's currently in the code right now. Especially in the winter time when we're getting down to frozen ground and there's no chance of the grass growing. Typically, they'll loam and seed it and then lace it with hay on top. And I don't know if Tom's having erosion issues or why this is being called out, but I have no problem with number two. That's in the code.
Can I show you a picture?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for number two, Matt, I thought that current code, and maybe I'm wrong, said that you had to have grass growing within 30 days or something after the final, whatever.
I don't know exactly what Title V calls out on the grass growth, but I know, like, we basically will issue,
They're not getting this system done in time for cold weather.
I understand what's going on. They're not finishing the time. So that's an open hole full of frozen water. That's
Yeah.
probably 2, 3, or 8 feet deep.
So what's this? That's just a cover?
No, that's the septic tank itself.
Oh, the tank.
There's the 3 lids, and these tanks are 8 foot 6 tall.
Oh, okay. So
So-
why is it up so high? I mean, they obviously they're going to bring in more dirt, or
Yeah, so this tank is hopefully set to the design plan.
okay.
A lot of times they'll put these tanks right at ground, so when they come in to clean them out, they're only scratching a couple inches of topsoil to get to the lids.
Oh, so you don't have to dig down 2 feet like I have to every couple of years.
In theory, that's
Yeah,
the goal.
yes. Okay.
Doesn't always go that way.
All right.
But I think the idea on this picture is this right here is the ramp getting down to the hole, and it's probably 6, 7, 8 feet of water now frozen. There's pipe work that leaked. I don't know, that almost looks like a pipe right there. And that's not acceptable, especially when the spring comes. Like, Tom couldn't sign off on this.
Right, okay.
I do know, and so we have to probably see what the problem is with Tom, because here's the thing: if we say we shut the septics down on first frost, and generally that's basically when we're doing that, right? So there's no chance of grass growth, right? It's way too cold to do that. So they'll always allow you to hay them, because that prevents the erosion over the winter. But to not have something like that buttoned up, and I know over the years it's happened time and time again. Installers we called somebody in on Lincoln Point, if you remember. I was furious.
Yep.
They went in, they installed the septic system. The installer had money issues and said, I'm not finished until I get paid. And that system sat through the winter and eroded. John, you were on the board at the time. That eroded in there, all that. So you're supposed to have double wash septic sand, clean sand, and now we have erosion coming in, contaminating that sand. And I was furious about it because we couldn't get the installer back. And we actually sent him a letter. If he didn't come finish that system, he'd never do another one in town.
Right.
And Tom was involved with it. We were all, as a board, we got involved. It was over money. The installer didn't want to finish the system because if they finished the system, they didn't think they were going to get paid.
Okay.
But our role of a board is to make sure our installers are providing healthy systems. We don't care about the dollar. We don't want to see anybody get burnt as human beings, but as the role of the board, no, you can't start a system and not finish it. And I think that picture represents what's going on. That's an unfinished system that now gets carried through the winter.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, when Kurt Meskis goes there, they're ready to move in. Tom has essentially signed off on this because it's almost like it's a given thing that they're going to do this, but it doesn't, and Kurt's having a little bit of hesitancy and saying, this isn't what I want to see when I am going to sign off.
I absolutely would not sign off on that system.
Yeah, so that's why I sat down with Tom, we looked at this, we showed it. can't have this.
You can't have that.
No. And
So
we're
were the-
there. for
Were the people delayed in moving in, or did they move in and just kept their fingers crossed that?
They moved in and it was taken care of. I called and they were very upfront of getting it done. He came back with pictures within days of that.
Okay.
So here's the thing with the septics, okay? We do license the installers. So it's gonna be like this. First of all, a licensed septic installer has to prove to us that they're qualified to do the install, which we have a protocol to do that. But also, burn us once, there's nothing our board can do. But they're not gonna get us a second time. And so most installers aren't, fly-by-nighters. They're gonna work time and time again. And we don't want to get somebody that's a one-time deal that burns us and leaves us like that. But that should not have been signed off. So at a minimum, if the work's not done, I don't think Tom should sign off on it. But we also want to promote to our installers that if you're gonna take on a septic system the first week of December, you gotta stay on it and get it buttoned up, And I know I get the call every year to override Tom. Hey, the weather's nice, it's 40 degrees out, this guy needs a septic, I can do it this week. And Tom, is like, don't do it. And it's like, we're in that, I see the point of view, there's no frost, we have a reputable installer that I believe can get it done within that period of time. And so it's like, why, for the sake of saying no, do you say no? And the reason is because if they don't get it done and we have problems like this, it's not healthy for a septic system to go through a winter like that, or a foundation,
Right.
It's just not. So the frost changes things, they move the pipes, it's just, there's nothing good that comes out of it.
Mhm.
But at a minimum, Jim, so let me just read this number 2. In order to receive a signed certificate of compliance from the Board of Health, the entire system will be required to have finished grading and stabilization of all slopes. Stabilization shall be in the form of loam and seed, straw mulch, or other acceptable slope stabilization materials. I agree with that 100%. If somebody gets caught short, illness, for whatever reason, machine breaks down, they can't finish it, it's bad enough. But we certainly shouldn't sign off on anything in the hope that they're gonna. So if it doesn't get completed, we don't get the signature.
If I may, he did come in today, and if I had the chance and opportunity to ask you a question, he told me to ask it of you, of the board. I told him to do what he had to do under Title V. There's an installer who's the engineer. He had to fail him twice. He had to restart the system. This is the third time for failure to install it properly. So he wants his license revoked. So I said, well, I'll bring it up to Matt. He said this is the third time that the engineer and himself have gone there and it's been installed incorrectly.
It's the same project?
Yes.
Do we know what the problem is? Should we take it offline and I talk to Tom?
Yeah, if you could call Tom and he wants to speak to you about it, because, like I said, I said, do what you have to do to assure that the buyer, when they buy a house that has a proper, or anyone, has a septic system when they signed off on, is going to last them for as many years as possible.
Right.
And if you're having a problem already, he doesn't feel the installer has the knowledge to do it.
Okay. Because sometimes things happen in the field and
Right.
it's not cutting corners, it's not for any reason other than it's a fluke or something that may have happened. So I'd be willing to hear the circumstances and if there's an issue with this one particular system, is it a challenging system or is this a history of other systems as well and this is the icing on the cake? Is my question with Tom. But regardless, I feel what I will do, I'll take this offline with Tom, I'll discuss it, but I would certainly not revoke any license or suspension without having a board make that final say, John. So,
What he wanted to do is tell him to stop and consult with you and myself. And I said, well, this is really a board issue because once you issue the license, only one who can take it away
is the board.
is the board. You could temporarily say stop, cease and desist, then the board would review and it would be up to them. So,
Okay.
So that's why I'm bringing it up today, so you can speak to him.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be a quick meeting, otherwise he probably would have came.
Yeah. It could be, and I don't know the circumstances. It could be a Presby system that's the first time they've done a Presby system. They have the license to do it, but that might be new.
Right.
It could
It's
be
not a
these
drip.
new systems where
Yeah, it's not a drip ride.
the drip right,
It's not
those
a
crazy
Presby.
things.
It's a normal system that he should have no issues with.
He should have no issues with.
So
it.
that's,
Okay.
that's the problem. But I said, Tom, then why don't you speak to Matt?
Okay.
You know systems well, and because I think this is an issue that should be brought up, but third time.
Right. So and certainly if there's engineers involved, the engineer can probably point them in the right direction for the
Engineer
corrective action and all
Is
that.
also worried that the installer doesn't have the skill to
Okay.
perform the job.
So, I'll talk to Tom offline on
Sure.
that and try and at least get the installer through this system if possible to whatever, if the engineer has to help out or make the recommendations and whatnot. And then we'll bring, based on basically, I guess what Tom says is if he feels as though we should revoke or suspend the license or come in for a discussion on it, we'll bring that installer in for a discussion.
I said, Tom, why don't you sit down with him and make sure he has a test that he gets to everyone. He passed it, but passing a test, I guess, and actually performing the job are two different things.
Yeah.
They come from an area that's far, far away from here. They've never done a system before. Tom has allowed them because he gives a test out, and they had 3 other towns that said that they have done systems, and that's what we do. So
I'm not gonna lie, I got my license to install septic systems in this town in 1995. I had just graduated school and I was good at taking tests. I went to Cullinan Engineering, I took the Title V test and I passed it because I was good at studying for tests. I just came out of school and college.
yep.
I had never seen a perk test. I had never seen any of that. So now I was a licensed installer in this town with zero experience. That happened to me. In my case, I had somebody do the first septic system with me, put me under their wing, showed me how to do
Sure.
it. It's not rocket science,
No,
but for
but-
never doing one before, you need to at least see it. And so I do see how the test is not the only way
You're right.
to make it happen. Because I've seen just the opposite. I know people that could out-install me, but can't pass the test.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
So
agree.
it goes both ways. So yeah, if we have a red flag or a yellow flag being raised right here, we'll certainly address
I think,
it.
like I told Tom, it's best that he maybe tell him to hold off, speak to you, and discuss the issue before we get too far, and have a system installed that may fail in a couple of years. We don't want that, you
Well,
know.
we don't want that in a couple of things. Number one, the engineer's not going to sign off on
He
it.
won't.
And if Tom doesn't, if this town representative doesn't sign
won't.
off on it, the homeowner and the installer are going to have their hands full with a problem. So we got to try and make it right for everybody.
Tom's been very good. He's been quickly reviewing plans, getting things this town. When you apply for a septic design plan, there's no 40-day wait. Like,
Right.
It's done quickly, it's done correctly, and this is just one that is in that time period that was very difficult to get finished, but it has been taken care of. So.
All right. So anyways, I'm going to stay on this pen lights up. Okay.
That's from Pete.
Okay.
From his Encompass. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, so that was line item number 2, all right, and now the third line item, it says, soil absorption systems and septic components shall be staked off to identify them to prevent vehicular traffic from passing over them, even during the construction of the system. I have no problem with that, if Tom wants to require that. It's for the better of everybody. What will happen is, they'll put a septic system behind the house, so they'll do that first because order of operations, that makes the most sense. Then they build the house, then they side the house, and they're running the forklift right on top of the septic systems to reach the roof for the siding and all that. And it could compromise. Everything's backfilled, you don't know what's happening below.
Right.
To me, that makes sense. I have no problem with that. If it's in Title V, let's make sure
It
we're
is.
regulating it. If it's not in Title V and Tom wants to add that to his list for the town, I'm good with that. John,
No, I agree. I know when I had my infiltrator system installed 20 years ago, whoever did the install told me specifically, do not drive anything over that system heavier than an unloaded pickup truck.
Yes.
Because it's, plastic basically. And
Right,
they
yeah.
trade
It is.
system.
And they
40 mil.
fail.
Yeah, yeah. I said, okay, you got it.
Yeah.
So,
I have no problem with that, and you don't want to, compromise a D box or a pipe or any of it. So
I mean, he's being vigilant, and I guess some people are taking advantage of it, and he wants to make sure that he's fair to everybody, so it's across the board. It's not just one person, it's
Yeah.
everyone that's going
So let's go back to line item number 1. We're discussing the size of the stone. Title 5 says 3/4 stone to 1.5 inch. Okay, I don't have a problem with 3/4 stone to 1.5 inch, and I don't know if Tom does, but it seems like the problem is when they order the 3/4 and they're getting provided the 1/2 inch.
right.
So I don't know. That's not a installer's issue. They're paying the same dollar value. It's not like they're trying to get away with anything. Do we have to regulate the quarry where the stone is coming from and say if the stone comes from quarry A over here, we've never had a problem with it, they're fine, but we've had problems with quarry B over here, we can't get the stone from them? Or do we change regulation and say 3/4 out, it has to be 1.5 inches? The problem is, and we're going to run into this all the time, the engineers that do the Title V are going to engineer it to 3/4 inch. It's hard to fail a system that meets Title V because of the language of the stone. So I don't know that I want to say no on the 3/4. I want to, it's like the sand. We have to get the sand from certain people, from a certain method, and get it sieve analysis and make sure it's qualified.
Yep.
Because if you get the wrong sand, it's going to fail. I feel like this is the same thing. If you get the wrong stone, it's going to fail. So I think the board needs to maybe discuss with Tom, like, is this ongoing? Is there a problem? Let's face it, we're all getting stone from the same 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 quarries. There's just a loop of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 towns out there that you can get double wash stone from. Are we having a problem with a particular quarry? Because if we are, and we're having a problem with quarry A, who is supplying 70% of the septics, maybe we have a discussion with quarry A and say, listen, you're getting too much 1/2 inch stone in there. It's got to be 3/4 or you're not going to be allowed.
He says it's been all 1/2 inch, and that's the problem. So it's not even close to 3/4.
So I will say, I know a quarry that's recently opened up, and their 3/4 inch stone is 1/2 inch. I can't imagine they're using it for septic because I don't believe they're double washing. That's why I'm suspect that's a different quarry, but it could be. And that's a whole nother level of problem because we need to have double wash stone. That's requirement. So not under the tanks, but certainly in the trenches, they want the double wash stone, and on top of everything. So I feel like we ought to talk with Tom. And is it isolated to an individual supplier, or is it across the board? Is it everywhere? Because these things come in screens,
Yeah.
right? So you have a grid of 3/4 inch stone, and if it's smaller than that, it falls through and goes somewhere else. And if it's 3/4 or larger, it usually gets into that next screen, and then your next screen might be 1 or 1.5 inches, and you have that range from 3/4 to 1.5 inches, and they'll call it 3/4 because it's 3/4 plus.
Yeah.
So it's, and then anything that comes out would be 3/4 minus or whatever. But I just wonder if we're having a problem with a particular quarry,
I
or
think it's best that probably you have a one-on-one conversation with him, discuss the 2 issues, and come to a consensus of what you would like. Because when he presented it to me, I said, this is really something that is in Title V. I know that when I went to Oxford, I had to bring Willie Stevens a plan or something. They made him take out his 3/4 inch stone and put the 1 and 3/4 in, and he was pissed. And I said, they made you take all that out? He said, yeah, they want the 1 and 3/4. So I don't know. It seems like other people are enforcing that.
the problem is, again, if Tom signs off on a plan and now this board approves Plan X and the plan says 3/4,
It's 3/4.
that's acceptable.
And if it's a half inch, then he shouldn't accept it.
If it's half inch in the field, Tom is gonna have to
Exactly.
reject it and say, listen, then it puts Tom in a bad spot because people have already spent money.
Right.
And so to rip
it's
it
tough
out.
to get it out.
So, boys, relax. What I say is, it says, when ordering the stone from your supplier, please call for 1.5 inch stone. I want to leave it in there as a recommendation because a lot of time the plan will say 3/4 / 1.5 inch, so in that range.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with leaving it in there on the line item for number 1 for Tom to give to the letter. And if Tom or this board has to explain a little bit, saying, listen, we're getting the stone's too small, we're gonna reject them. So don't put the stone in the hole if it's gonna be too small. Let's maybe educate our installers a little bit that we're having a problem.
Maybe we could add it to our paperwork too for the installers. We do permit eyes online now too. We could add it to all our paperwork.
I think this, I have no problem putting this right in with the pamphlet. Hey, we got a new letter, this goes out, so someone comes in for a print, an installer comes in and they get their print and we bless it and we give them their paperwork. Read this, it ought to go. I think all these points are valid. I think number 1's a little bit of a gray area because I think it could be challenged. If somebody says it's 3/4 and we go out there and lo and behold, the stone is 3/4, I think that's fair game if we approve a plan that says that.
But if they know ahead of time, at least we give them the heads up so they're not doing work and extra work. And that's a lot of work when you dump all that and have to take it back out.
Right, and good luck to anybody that says, listen, I need a load of double wash 3/4 stone. The truck comes, they dump it, they put it in the hole, and then all of a sudden Tom says, listen, I told you, but it's too small. That's not going to fly with me. Who has to pay for the new load of stone? Who's going to pay for digging that out? A lot of this stuff is one time. The sand is like, if you can't just dig it up.
Wow.
The sand wants to collapse. It's very tedious and.
Yeah.
It takes fine tuning to get it right the first time, and to have to redo a septic or soil absorption system is not is bad. It's not, everything gets
Not good.
contaminated, it's not clean, it's bad.
So I
So,
think that's why he's trying to be proactive, but certainly I think a conversation, but if you want that to be attached, we can attach it to that.
John, do you have any comments on this letter?
No, I think work it out with Tom. If he needs to come before the board so that we can discuss it openly and try to figure out what to do, that's fine. But I agree. I think we need to make sure that the proper stone is getting in there. I just don't know the best way to do it.
Right, and I think if we have a smoking gun, hey, this job, and we will have a smoking gun because Tom has septic systems that he's having a problem with. So we say, Tom, which septic systems are you having a problem with? And he's going to say A, B, C, and D. We have in our paperwork the supplier. We know where the stone's coming from. So now we look at the supplier and say, it's supplier A, and A. We call supplier A as a board and say, listen, if you don't adjust the size of your stone, we are not going to allow you. You will not be a vendor in this town.
Right.
And we'll just tell our vendor, our installers that you can't buy the stone from company A because it's going to fail. You know,
Yeah, that may be the thing to do. Sure.
and if we find out that they're getting the stone from companies A and B, maybe we make a couple of calls. But if it's across the board,
Then you may have to
we might have to tweak regulation.
and do a certification and a test or something like, call Tom out there, even if it's an additional cost, because like you say, the last thing you want is to have a failed system or something.
My
that's-
understanding on how they screen it, and I screen, so I know, but you have a grid, okay, and the opening's gonna be, in this case, 3/4 inch. So you have this whole big screen and all your holes are 3/4. So as your product vibrates down, all the smaller than the 3/4 drop through the hole and off they go. And then you have this whole, a lot of times there's a screen above it, it might be 1.5 inches. So it has to be smaller than 1.5 to even make it to the screen, right? And then it screens it again. So in theory, that layer of screen would be from the top screen 1.5 to the screen it's sitting on, with the exception of the pickles. And the pickle could be a stone that is maybe 3/4 inch wide but long and just happens to drop down.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon to see a couple that would be longer, but you know, it's not, they're not all gonna come out in perfect cubes is what I'm saying, but yeah, so if you don't mind, John, and I don't think we have to vote on it, but I say we ask Tom to supply these with the installers.
Okay.
I'm fine with it. If you're good with it, we're just
Yeah.
gonna
Now
pass
put it on
it.
our website too, for Primotize, so, because people are applying online, to make sure they see that. That's
Yeah.
all.
Wherever it needs to go so they see it, but I'm on board with the 3. I do think that if number 1 gets challenged, they maybe come before the board, and if the stone slips, say 3/4 inch, I think we might, well, if it's not 3/4 inch, Tom doesn't have to accept it, period. Don't care what the slip says, it's
We'll
what's in the
email
hole.
every single installer that we have email address to them all and give them a heads up.
Heads up, it's come to our attention that the size of the stone on the 3/4 is smaller than the 3/4 inch, and we are now going to be looking to make sure that it meets the minimum size of the 3/4. Please, you know, pay attention to this. Because if the truck comes and drops a load of stone on the ground and it's not the right size, it's gonna be up to the installer not to put it in the
Right.
hole. It's bad enough you got a load of stone that's no good, but once they put it in the trenches and all that, it's a real mess.
Not like you can return it either,
Well, you could,
but, yeah.
you know, and the quarry's probably gonna say, you know, lose it on site or whatever. And the smaller stone's probably not a problem for under a tank or other areas you could use the stone, but certainly not in the trenches.
You're
And I
right.
think that's the problem.
Good, okay. Make sure
So I'm good with that. John, if you're good with that.
Yep, I'm fine.
One thing that I don't see on here in,
we kind of shortened up the meeting agenda because we thought it was
time sensitive.
Yeah,
Yeah, how we
so-
doing on it? It's 5:30. One of the things that we was on the last agenda, you know what, I don't wanna speak out of turn. So for the next agenda item, could we put reorganization of the boards? Because that was on and I think it got kicked off. Did we ever discuss that formally? I don't think we did.
No,
I'd like to discuss it, but I don't want to do it out of order and then talk about something that's not on the agenda.
right. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So I'd like to make that an agenda item for our next meeting, which would be the
the reorganization.
July 11th.
July 11th?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just for discussion.
It should be quick.
Yeah.
Matt, if I can,
Yes.
one thing that we didn't do was the acceptance of prior meeting minutes for May 2nd. And actually, I don't even know if I've reviewed them, but Andrea's, I've been reviewing these for 7 years, and I think I've only seen a couple of small little minor things.
Yeah, you picked one up, I
Oh,
think,
wait.
last time.
I've already signed that. I don't know when I did that.
So you're good.
Yeah. So,
Let me just take a quick browse
Okay.
of this, if you don't mind.
you do that.
They get the whole bag.
Okay, let me just, right here, we tabled the reorganization, but can we, it says, we tabled it, made a motion to table it. We seconded it, all in favor. Can we discuss it now, or does it still have to be an agenda item?
I think other business unknown at the time of posting, you can maybe do it under that.
I'm fine with that. I mean, it's not anything major, but
Okay, that's fine. Other business
Or-
unknown at the
okay.
time of posting, and that's where we came up with this,
Yeah.
okay? I just want to nip it in the bud. So, as you know, our third member is no longer with us. They decided to go to the select board. This, Pete would have been the chair, and we always stagger our times. However, in this case, regardless of who our joint boards pick for the new board member, it's not fair or fair to the town, fair to the member, to start off as chair. We need to reorganize that seat. So now the question comes between, do I take the chair, does John take the chair, and how do we, work that out amongst ourselves? John, what I want to propose to you is, what we do is we take the 1 year time frame and we chop it in half. So at about the 6 month mark, which 6 months from May would put us in November, I say, if you're okay with it, I will remain chair, just ongoing as the chair till November. So I've extended my time that extra 6 months. And then in November, we have a vote to reorganize the board at that time. And at that time, we recommend that you become the chair. So now you will be chair 6 months earlier. And in fact, that will divvy it up.
Right.
If you're good with that, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that, yeah. So it'd be, you would have it essentially a year and a half. I would have it a year and a half. The new person would come in here as a member. And yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
As a member,
Yeah.
and then during the May election, as nature takes its course, you are now going to be chair for your full year.
Yeah.
And then I would become vice chair, and then whoever makes the election would then be member at that time, and we'll be
Yeah.
back in sync again.
And that way they would rise through the ranks, so to speak, in succession. Member, vice chair, chair.
Right.
They serve out the 3 years.
And that gives them 2 full years of sitting on this board
Which
before they become chair.
is necessary with everything we got going on.
Sometimes
Could be
being the
longer.
chair is not a pretty sight.
No, I know.
And you don't know if they know Robert's rules, procedures, policies, and it's unfair to someone to throw them into that anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're good with that, I'd like to table the reorganization until our November meeting.
That's fine. I'm good with that.
Okay. So we can lay that line item
Okay.
off.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. Moving forward, I'd like to see if there was a motion to accept the May 2nd minutes of the meeting.
I move that we accept the May 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes as typed up there in front of you.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. And I did not see that, so I jumped right over that one, so thank you for bringing that to me. Okay, old business, Flint Road landfill. I know Gary's not here to talk in depth about it, but I've reached, Gary has reached out to me. We have had some PFAS hits in some of the residents, if that's correct, two residents that I'm aware of.
Just got another one, third.
Third residents. And then there was some with no detections.
Right.
And the detections were very low. I think there was like a 7.
7, 13, and 6, I think.
So they're all below that standard of 20 parts per billion, was it?
Billion.
Billion. So they're all below the standard. But John, what Jim did, and he,
The last one's 8. The
8.
new one. I just don't want to give it out an address
Yep.
right now, so.
that's fine. So what Jim did, again, because Jim is Jim and that's how he is, but he went to those residents and dropped them off bottled water as soon as we found out about it. Sent me a picture of the bottled water. So we knew instantly they had, that CEP was eliminated, and are we gonna get them on a program?
They're on it.
They're on it, so.
And it takes a while to get them on it, but thank God they were already signed up with Ready Fresh. So we just had to switch over the account. So we didn't discontinue service. And then they decided that I did bring them bottled, but they wanted some larger ones. So today I brought 2 to 14 Old Town Road.
Okay.
Because she preferred that. I said, no problem, so I brought them over today.
Okay.
Whatever to make them happy, if they want to use that, that's fine, so.
I appreciate you doing that, thank you.
Thanks,
Oh,
John.
it's not something you can wait, say, I'll come on Saturday in the meantime,
No.
you know, it's just something that needs to be done.
It does, but it also, we could pay someone to do that, and by you doing that, also saves the town some money as well, and I know that, and, so I know you're always looking out for the town any way you can, and I appreciate that, so
No,
thank you.
I think it's important. I wouldn't want, they have children at these houses also, one of them, and they were very appreciative that we acted so quickly and got it over there. And I spoke to him on the phone and had some questions, of course. And certainly, I think at some point, we should allow them if they want. It's up to you, Mr. Chairman. In the next meeting, I think some of them want to come before the board to ask some questions of the board. I tried to answer them as much, but I think it may be good for the public if they want to come before you and ask questions.
Do you think we could pull it off in that 45 minutes we're gonna have on the 11th?
Sure.
Okay,
Yep.
so let's do that.
I think the one person that wants to come and needs only 10 or 15 minutes of your
So
time.
let's do that. And then, further discussion on the landfill, we reached out to the Jacksons about an agreement. Do they need to come before the board, or do we gonna just, are they okay with the agreement, or?
They signed the agreement, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
It was due by Wednesday, according
Okay.
to DEP. And I went to their house and they invited me in. They're very wonderful people. And I explained to them that, we would have had you before the board meeting. We were having a, but I think they preferred that, they trust the town enough. Gary's gonna keep them informed, as I will. I told them that, you appreciate their service over the years and understand that we're gonna wanna make sure that the trash isn't on their side. And that if it is, it's gonna be pulled back away and we'll leave their property nice, clean, and pristine. It's just to assure that their property is safe. They understood totally. I went and had them sign it. I went and had Mr. Jackson sign it, and Mrs. Jackson made it clear that she's the owner of the property and she'll sign it. So
Okay.
I said, okay.
That's fine with me.
And that's fine. She signed. She's a very sweet lady, and they let me come into their home, and I stayed for a while, and we talked, and I made sure I just didn't rush and have them sign something. I explained to them in detail of what this really meant
Yeah.
and what it encompassed. But they said that if you need them at any time, they don't get out as much, but it would come down. But they're lovely people. Gary's going to go there, pick them up, and bring them if they have to. They have a wire that goes across the back of their property that Gary is very concerned of because it's not posted properly. And there's a lot of ATVs back there, and he's afraid someone may get hurt. So
Okay.
he's actually going to help them by bringing in something better that would secure the property, and it's safer, and no one's going to get hurt.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically between Gary and them,
It is.
but, it's the right thing to do, so I'm
Even
fine
if
with
Gary
it.
said if he had to spray paint it orange or post the signs on it, that he would have his people do it. I said if I needed to do it, help him. But he feels it's a safety issue. It's really not, where people are going to be working there. It's going to maybe people start to ride when you clear property, as you know, Matt, and
Yeah.
they want to get in there with their ATVs. Mr. Jackson does not want them on his property.
Okay,
So-
fair enough. Okay, so the next, we do have department head reports. Do you have anything you wanna?
We have Emily and Mary that have started, as the board knows, they've been working, Emily actually worked in Sutton today, because we're part of that regionalization now, and she did, tomorrow we'll be doing Nature's Classroom. We also have all the camps to do, the children's camps, of course, Camp Foskett's on there, and they're having a little bit of difficulty, because they lost some staffing, so I'm helping them get their paperwork together, so they can get open in a timely
Yeah,
fashion.
Sue's gone.
Sue's gone. She's over at Overlook.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Oh, good for her.
She loves it over there. She's doing well. She offered to assist them in the process of getting the paperwork together, and they said that they needed to learn themselves, so they're having a little bit of difficulty. But it's supposed to be in 90 days before, but they were camp of the year 2 years ago, so we can let it go.
Okay.
And certainly we'll make sure. But we will be doing Nature's Classroom, which is John Santos.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Emily, myself, and Kim.
All right.
So it's a long day of walking around there. But we have to assure that the safety of the children and do all the inspections. So.
Great.
And Also, we do have another position to hire because they gave us more money. We have to decide what we're gonna do that. I know we discussed maybe, the problem is I have to coordinate this, make sure they're all busy. We do have a shared services coordinator. We have meetings after meetings. It's a lot of work, but we're getting them going, and the town does benefit by this, and I think we all benefit because there's equal inspectional services now across the board, because we use a computer system now. So my inspection would be the same as someone else because the computer doesn't allow you. It almost tells you what the violation is once you start. So it does help someone who's younger and starting out in the field. So I've been doing a lot of training, which helps me. I always like to train. And that's certain. Emily's working out great. Mary's working out great. If anyone out there knows that we have a community health coordinator, director, she's wonderful. If you need assistance with rent, fuel, housing, just want to talk to someone, Mary's here. She now works for the Board of Health.
Okay.
She has an office downstairs. Feel free when you stop in. We fully equip the office. She has a desk, she has tables, she has everything she needs. And it's in the Veterans Agent's office in the front there. And we're just running out of space in this office, so we're now downstairs too. So, but it's working out well, and certainly Charlton is a leader in that area. And but it also comes with a lot of work, because when you have more people, you got to make sure that they're busy and you're busy because you're helping them keep busy. But all in all, it makes the day go by fast. And Emily's fit in well with Andrew and Kim, so it's great. And Mary is awesome. So we're lucky to have her, both of them.
This board's lucky to have most of our staff. I shouldn't even say most. This board is lucky to have all of our staff.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, today Andrew got a call from a realtor, and the realtor was amazed that she called the town of Charlton, got through to the building inspector and got what she needed, called the Board of Health and got through what she needed, and she said, I just want to let you know that I deal with probably 30, 40 towns, and this is by far and away the best town for services provided to get someone to answer the phone and get what you need right away. And with politeness and expedience. And that's true, and that's what this board has been doing for many years.
Yeah.
So.
I'm smiling because my daughter, I'm not even gonna say the town, she lives further out, and it's awful to try to get anything.
Yeah.
Whether you need a dump permit, because they still have a dump there in that town,
Yeah.
or anything else. And even the police department, I guess, they only have a few officers, so after a certain hour, you call 911, you're at the mercy of where the state police are, if they're available. And then they gotta find your house out in the middle of nowhere, and so, yeah.
Yeah, we're
It's
lucky.
nice. Yeah,
And
it's come
it's
a
a
long
credit
way.
to all the people that work in here, and not just myself. But we try and, not everyone's happy, so I don't want to say that, but certainly, we do provide a good service, and Andrea's terrific, Kim's terrific, Emily, Mary. We have a good team that can do a lot for the communities, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's on behalf of you, because we work at the will of the board, so we serve, and that makes, and we're trying to do the best job we can.
I feel this board attempts, and we might not get it right all the time, but we try to treat everybody the same.
Yes.
Unlike other boards in other towns, and I'm not gonna say where, but it's west, but but I'm just saying, we always try to treat everybody the same. A lot of times, it's a bad answer, and nobody likes it, but we're not picking and choosing. You always said it, it's what it is, not who it is, and I feel as though I think I've used that motto since the first time you said it to me, and I
think
take pride in that, so.
Yeah, we're just even shops. People appreciate that they can ring the shops. You don't know how many people that don't know what to do with the shops, and we're getting rid of them, and we're doing it every day. People bringing the shops. We're assuring that they're not going to landfills or out in the trash. So.
What would we do with mercury?
Household hazardous waste day accepts the mercury
That's right.
through that.
June 24th.
We don't have any more
Vouchers?
the vouchers. We'll have to wait till the September one, but then we'll have another full set of vouchers.
Okay.
Someone called today about mercury. That's an acceptable thing, but of course you got to pay that $30 for the half load, and we're going to pass out more vouchers then.
Okay, so John, the date is? the 24th?
June 24th is the hazardous.
This is the next one. We just don't have any vouchers for that one. You
Yeah.
can bring Mercury to that.
You can bring the
Yes.
Mercury and its Household Hazardous Waste Day, June 24th, and where do they go for that?
Barefoot Road.
Barefoot Road.
Barefoot Road.
Barefoot Road,
So,
okay?
We have it
I think
posted everywhere. We have it on our website. We have
Okay.
it on most.
I think they'll ask you for your license. I'm trying to remember, it's been a while.
Proof of
since I've been-
residency.
Proof of
Yeah,
residency.
Yeah, well, electric bill, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they won't turn you away if you want to pay for it. They don't want people driving away
yeah.
and tossing out the window. They're aware that we're trying to keep the environment
Yeah,
clean.
so, but we're out of vouchers, but the day is still active, so.
Yes. The day is still active, which not vouchers till the next one, so.
And then we will have more vouchers after July 1.
Yes.
Which would put us Household Hazardous Waste Day in the September month.
Yes.
Okay.
And we will have a full set of vouchers ready to go.
Excellent. Anything else?
No? That's it.
Okay, we know when the next meeting's gonna be. That may be a little bit of a busy night, but we'll get through that. John, you have anything else to add?
I do. It was brought to my attention, and I didn't have an answer to this person. They were asking about the trash contract with, as we know, Casella's after November, I think. They're gonna be done picking up the
November 30th.
municipal. So have we gotten anywhere with putting this out for bid, or is that something that the selectmen are doing, or?
That's, my understanding, that's completely up to the selectmen.
Okay, all right.
But if you want to discuss that on the 11th with them, we can bring it up. We just want to maybe give them the heads up that we might ask the question about that and get
Yeah.
it on the agenda.
Just wanted to be sure, the person who talked to me said, I just want to make sure that, it's not that far away, and I said,
I'm sure Andrew can update you
Okay.
on the next meeting along with the selectmen,
Okay.
where they're going with it and what they've done. I think they're gonna do the most prudent and cost-effective and
Okay.
safe thing for the town. I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we just, as a board, need to make sure that the trash gets picked up.
Right, yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
we've had some problems with trash getting picked up, but I think it's improved since some of our local people have decided that, hey, we're gonna start a business. And another local person just started another trash pickup. I won't mention any names because I don't wanna single anyone out, but we've given them permit, I gave them some guidance and helped them out, had them contact the DEP. It's it's competition, but once you start a business, then do the right thing and buy the right equipment.
Yeah.
It's always about the right equipment. You need a 40-yard with a hydraulic closure in order to get a proper permit to haul trash. That's the thing that people don't realize. So you can't just buy a pickup truck with your trailer and put a cover on it. That's
Blowing
not
down the
acceptable.
road, yeah.
Blowing down the road. They don't. That's not acceptable. So, but
The days of blow and go are over.
yeah, that's not a good thing.
Because
So,
it ends up down and brown,
yes,
right?
and we don't want that.
We don't want that. So, John, anything else?
I'm all set, ready
So
to go home.
do you wanna discuss that with selectmen?
I might bring it up, but if you guys are pretty sure that they're handling it, I don't, I just
I-
wanted to make sure somebody's,
I know the ball is
Actively
not
doing
in our court for
okay,
that.
all right, good. And I'm good with that.
Okay. So next is then we need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn our meeting of June 13th, 2023.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5:53, the meeting is over.